which will be nice. So let me just make sure you can see this. I'm obviously very slow today, which is fabulous. I don't know why, but Eden's big. I don't know if Eden's big for anyone else. I know, you're back normal now. I think it's because you spoke. So then, what essentially I'm going to be talking you through today is the biofeedback audit. So this is what I essentially, this is the framework on how I coach clients one to one. You'll take a lot of value from this if you're staying on with one to one, which will be fabulous because you'll know how I do it. But also, if you do want to go on your own after group coaching, you will know exactly how I coach individuals on a one-to-one basis and exactly how you should be coaching yourself and the metrics that you should be looking at. We've also got three clients coming to speak as well at the end, three one-to-one clients, talking about their journeys from all different perspectives, different starting points. So that will be really beneficial if kind of looking at someone else's story to, to resonate with. And if you feel like you've got a long way to go, and progress feels a little bit unachievable, then it's really, really positive from hearing success from other clients as well. So as usual, content. So, what is biofeedback audit and why it matters? How I weekly coach my one-to-one clients, the audit framework, what do I use? When do we push phases? When do we protect certain phases? How do we look at things like sleep, stress management, and mental health targets? Looking at things like hormones, cycle informed training and nutrition, training performance, form feedback and progression, nutrition adjustments, reverse dieting and recovery to capacity, coaching yourself post Elevate, and then obviously we've got three clients coming in to have a chat. So, in terms of the audit itself, what is biofeedback? So, when we're thinking about feedback, we're thinking about the body's feedback, not just the scale. So, obviously, that's why photos are really important, metrics are really important, but also the verbal communication between clients. And I'll talk about the difference with check-in forms and things like that. There is certain phases in life that we are classing as like a protection phase. For example, it's Ramadan at the moment, so I've got quite a few clients um fasting. Are we looking at hitting PBs or like doing extreme deficits or like pushing 12, 13, 14K steps? No. Like that would be a protect phase. If there's a very stressful period in time in someone's life, if someone's postpartum, if someone's from injury, if someone's just struggling with the mental health in general, there's lots of different phases in life that we would essentially class as a protect phase where we're protecting results, we're just not pushing results. And I think it's really important for you to all to understand that there will be a point like that for everyone in life. It's not always about pushing progress. Yeah, when I was away the past couple of weeks, was I worrying about PBs and things like that? No, it's just protecting my results. I wasn't exactly pushing for a new target. And I think when you make peace with yourself, understanding there's times in your life where you're just protecting results, it will really, really help the mental load rather than constantly feeling like you have to push, push, push. And there'll be plenty of times with clients where I have to pull them back and say, right, for the next 4 weeks, we're not worrying about that because mental load and mental strain is one of the biggest reasons why people fall off track and rebound. Um, how I remove the guesswork for check-ins, what data I look at, and what is most important in order, and then why more isn't always better. Yeah. With group coaching, you guys are coming into me for 8 weeks for a fat loss result. I am going to hammer down SAP targets. I'm going to hammer down protein. You get up to 14,000 steps a day. I don't think I have any one-to-one client on 14,000 steps a day, but essentially we do want it to be pushed a little bit more to the extreme part, so you essentially are happy with your results. Um, the four decisions I'm mainly making every week, so keeping the plan the same, reducing stress load, adjusting nutrition targets, and changing training variables, and mainly dealing with people not wanting to divorce their husbands or have mental breakdowns most of the time. Um, so looking at the different kind of aspects of it, and majority of the time it is keeping the plan the same and not changing things up. The big mistake that I will notice when clients leave coaching is that they usually come back, but when they usually come back and I've asked them what they've done, they've tried to change too many variables too quickly, and they've felt like they've not been making had a result. So then they thought, right, let's slash calories, let's increase cardio, let's do steps, and too many variables are changing. So I'm going to explain exactly why I don't do that when I coach. And if you are hitting a stall, what is the first thing that you should be changing? What should you be keeping the same? Because yes, we can all lose 20 pounds, but how do we lose the next 20, or how do we maintain that loss that we have created as well? My decision rule, so I always look for weekly patterns, not daily noise. If someone's having a bad day, it's not going to change the plan. If they're having a bad week, it's probably not going to change the plan. Again, this also comes in female hormones, and if someone's due on the period, or if someone's in perimenopause, or someone's changed their HRT. And again, it comes with coaching communication. One bad day is never going to trigger a change. Yeah. And it should never trigger a change for you either. It's always going to look at adherence first, then adjustments. 99% of the time, if clients are not losing fat, it is an adherence problem. It is not a plan problem. Now, there will be times where, and I'll talk about this, where I will increase calories. Would I do that because their metabolism has stopped working? No, their adherence is probably slipping over time. And rather than me having a battle and them having a battle over adherence, it's better just putting their calories up temporarily, removing the stress, and then re kind of entering that deficit when adherence has got back up to par. Because over time, our consistency slips. That's just human nature. Small changes are always going to beat dramatic ones. And usually the changes that we need to make are about routine and structure. You know, your training plan's suddenly not going to stop working, your deficit's suddenly not going to stop working. It's usually lifestyle factors that are the first point of call that we are looking at. And I think the problem that people make, especially when they're not educated on this topic, is they think, oh God, I'm not making progress. I need a new training program. I need a new coach. I need to push my deficit deeper. And they will go for those types of metrics rather than looking at their lifestyle and looking at how they're actually showing up. The audit scorecard. So I look at things like sleep quality, stress levels, hunger and cravings, training performance, recovery and stress, soreness, step consistency, digestion, bloating, mood, and mental load. There is a lot of things that I look at on a week to week basis. Most of the things I'm covering when I'm verbally doing the check-in, I probably spend 15 minutes looking through all data before I even go on the video every single week, because otherwise people are going to be sat on videos for like 30 minutes. So I'll make a really good thorough assessment. Then I will look at the client's check-in form. Then I will read through the client's check-in form while I'm doing the video, then pulling up the metrics that are really, really important that are either changed or stay the same or what they've done well. And I'm going to show you some videos today as well of certain check-ins so you can see how I do a check-in with a client, so then you can see what you'd need to be checking on yourself. The order I troubleshoot, number one, if you're not losing fat, if you're not gaining muscle, it's always going to be calories and macros. That's going to be the number one troubleshooting thing. And that is things such as tracking adherence, tracking accuracy. Like few of you had it on your checking forms this week. Like, why are we putting 0.6 of a pepper? You know, why are we putting 0.3 of a sweet potato? Grams, grams, grams. If I see another teaspoon of Nutella, I'm gonna lose my shit. Okay. So I was just thinking, like, why do people get to week 7 and start putting teaspoons in? Like, when in the welcome pack does it say measure Nutella in teaspoons? That is the quickest way to put in fat loss disappointment. So we always look at adherence. We look at like the nitty gritty. If someone's not consistently losing, the diary's been pulled up. I'm looking through every single item of food. I'm a perfectionist and I'm going to find out the reason. Yeah, and you're not going to be able to pull the wool over my eyes. Um, then we're going to look at things like hydration, steps, and sleep. Obviously, you know, if you need familiarizing, go back and watch the metabolic webinar. These parts are so, so important. This is your BMR essentially. You know, with really bad sleep, it's going to be very hard for you to lose fat. Yeah, not impossible, but very, very hard, because sleep affects ghrelin and leptin. That's your feeling of fullness, your feeling of hunger. That's going to make your calorie deficit non-achievable. That's going to push your stress levels really high up. That's then going to affect your energy, which you're not going to want to do your steps. So a lot of it is going to come down to sleep quality. With the Elevate program one-to-one coaching, you guys won't see this in the group, but you can connect to wearables. So if you've got like an Oura Ring, an Apple Watch, a Fitbit, that is connected to my coaching app. So all your sleep quality scores and all your duration, it pulls through. So I got all the graphs in that, and I'll show you what that looks like. So I'm not just asking, right, how many hours sleep you've got, I can see it. We look at stress and lifestyle load. How many hours have you been at work? You know, what's been your mental fatigue been like? And then training consistency, and not just your consistency, but are you training on the same days every week? Are you training at 9 o'clock at night? Like, what is going on with your recovery, which is then impacting your results? So when you're troubleshooting yourself and you're not making progress, don't just go straight away into slashing things. Like, have an honest conversation with yourself. Am I accurately weighing? Am I licking the spoon every week, every day when I'm cooking? Am I nibbling or eating over the kids' leftovers? Because usually it's always going to be adherence, um, is going to be the main issue. Sleep audit, like I said, so really start understanding your sleep. This isn't a metric that we necessarily track with the group coaching. This is a massive metric that I track with one-to-one coaching. Obviously, the group coaching is a very watered down version of coaching because I have so many of you, and it's essentially a cheaper route, I guess. But you want to look at your time asleep versus quality of sleep. So you could be asleep for 8 to 9 hours. The quality could be very, very poor. So you need to look at your levels of sleep. I look at each level, how much level you're in. And this also determines like your emotional capacity because if you're not getting deep levels of REM sleep, your ability to make emotional decisions are impaired. And that is why there is no mental health condition on this planet that is linked to good quality sleep. Because sleep is when we emotionally regulate, yeah, and it's where we make decisions. Night wakes and morning energy. So how are we feeling on an evening? Are we naturally feeling more tired? Are we laying in bed and are we stimulated? Are we worrying? These are all things that I know about my clients and I know who are the stress heads and who aren't the stress heads. Morning energy. Are we waking up feeling energized? Are we sluggish? Like this, these all things that you should be asking yourself. Evening routine, screen cut off time. Obviously, helps no one us having these calls late at night, but it's obviously not every night. And then consistent sleep and wake times. Obviously, I'll have a lot of shift workers, which it makes it more difficult. But having that regular rhythm within 30 minutes. With one-to-one coaching, you get a very advanced learning module on sleep and how to create consistent sleep. You get the same with your hormones. So everything that I'm talking about, I would teach you how to do this. But what I'm saying essentially is like this is a metric. This is way more important than the calories you burned in a workout. Yeah, this should be something that you really, really start to dial in on, and really start to understand your behaviors when it comes to your sleep. This is Nikki's. I don't know if Nikki's on here, but this is her sleep. Her sleep's pretty good. Um, when we're looking at stress, so looking at work and life load, um, a couple of clients in the group, I can tell who the stress head straight away. Yeah, get doing the coaching forms at 10:30 at night, lastminute.com. Yeah, and are really, really stressed out, like writing paragraphs and how stressed they are. That will be a big, big red flag when it comes to fat loss. Obviously, we have the aspect of the body retaining fat, which it does when you are stressed. And I always use the kind of story as your body does not know whether it's been chased by a tiger in the wild and you're fighting for your life, or that you're just finding work very stressful. Stress is stress. Your body doesn't know where it's coming from. It's going to increase your level of cortisol, which is going to again affect your hunger. But it's also going to slow down your metabolic rate, slow down your digestion, and make fat a lot harder to lose because fat is just fuel, guys. Fat is just a reserve fuel. So if your body thinks it's in danger, do you think it's just going to let all the fat go and put you in a vulnerable position of starvation? No, it's going to hold on to fat and it's going to be harder to regulate. So stress is really, really impactful on a fat loss journey. Um, Mental fatigue. Again, mental fatigue plays a huge, huge role. And this is where I've spoken previously about your decision fatigue. Again, I'm obviously going to talk about coaching because I'm passionate about it, but having a coach reduces mental fatigue massively. You're not thinking about building your own training program. You're not having to go write in a working log or go see what you've lifted last week. You're not thinking, oh God, shall I increase my carbs or shall I do this? Or, you don't need to think about all that because that is what I program for you. When you are going on your own, you need to really think about your non-negotiables and genuinely make them a non-negotiable because the more you negotiate and the more you change things, it creates mental fatigue, which creates stress. And then really understanding that you need time to switch off. Um, when clients go through one-to-one, we will have wind down protocols, stress management techniques. I will have like, for example, they have to do like say 30 minutes of self-care every single week and tell me what they've done. It sounds pointless, but it really, really does ingrain a lifestyle of a lot more self-care and a lot more calm because a lot of people have kids, they've got busy jobs, they've got people to look after, and they're always the bottom of the pile. As a result, you end up becoming the most unhappy, the most tired version of yourself, and everyone gets the worst version of you anyway. So, really putting some time into self care is so, so important because it does make the journey easier. And then things like daily decompression, like, for example, so many books I've recommended. Vex King is a really, really good one. The Great Self-Help book written by you, where it's just 5 minutes in the morning, 5 minutes at night. You fill in a little heart, you write 4 words on how you feel, and having a daily decompression and really sitting and thinking, how do I feel today? Am I stressed? Is this been a good day? Like you have to have some type of self-reflection, yeah, because otherwise your brain spirals and then you get in bed at night and then all of a sudden life's just too bloody hard and everything's too hard and you want to quit. Yeah. So understanding your stress and auditing your stress every day and every week. Stress management, again, non-negotiable downtime. Same thing, non-negotiable. Whatever de-stressing works for you. Yeah. Boundaries around work and phone. Um, Again, I'll have so many clients like I've helped so many so many clients have quit their jobs after after me saying, quit your job, go get another job, nothing's worth your help. Um, but again, setting boundaries with people in your life, people at work, your boss, you have to set boundaries in your life. Midday movement breaks, set an alarm on your phone, making sure you're constantly putting that effort and energy straight back into yourself as well. And then a really structured shutdown routine. Like with one-to-one clients, they have a sheet which is basically from like 5 a.m. in the morning at 11 p.m. at night in 15-minute intervals, and they have to colour block out their time. So I know when they're planning on going training, I know when they're working, I know when they're getting the steps in. So visually putting everything in a visual manner really, really helps. And I learned this from when I used to personal train because I had like an appointment calendar and I'd like block out all my clients in blocks. And then all my white time, I used to call it, which wasn't filled in, I'd then block out my training, and then the time around that, I'd block out my steps. And I just end up having a visual block because I don't know, obviously everyone works a little bit differently, but for me, calendars are very overwhelming. Like, especially like with all these one-to-one calls booked in, I can just see like 40 names over the next 10 days, and I'm like, oh, what the hell? Whereas when you visually block it out and colour it in and there's no writing on it, it can actually give you a sense of stress relief. Because if I looked at my calendar, which I've been doing every hour and having nervous breakdown, that is very overwhelming. If I actually got a pen and like blocked out everyone's little 30-minute slot and seen how much white time I had, it probably wouldn't seem as overwhelming. So creating your time management strategies because everyone's busy. I mean, this has probably been the bloody longest work day of my life. I think I'm on day hour 17 now. And it's obviously not every day, which is good. But, I still went to the gym at lunchtime from a 45-minute break. So it's about, again, priority, the way you set out your day and not just literally running off autopilot and just hoping everything works out. And then what happens? You order takeaway, you drink a bottle of wine to de-stress. All these bad habits start coming in because you have not prepared for that level of stress. Um, Especially clients who will say, and again, I've noticed a lot in the group, God, this week was just manic. And I'm saying to them, look, you just have to know that every week in your life is manic. Don't be shocked on like Sunday when you're doing checking, oh God, it was another manic week. Well, it's been manic for 8 weeks. So it's probably going to be next manic for the next 8 months. Prepare like every week's going to be really, really busy. And I think I always had to do that because with online coaching, I could wake up on a Tuesday and then I could have 5 consultations booked on the Wednesday. It completely put a spanner in the works of my week. So if I'm always preparing that I'm going to have very long full days, which everyone should do, then if it's a bit quieter, it feels like a bit of a relief. Oh God, I've got a bit of free time. I can, I don't know, walk my dog or something. So really start preparing for the worst. I would say not in not meaning it like that, but you know what I mean. Mental health, like what is the difference through coping, through thriving? Also understand that stress is a positive thing. Stress is not always a negative thing. Stress makes us get things done. Stress helps us work hard. Like we think of stress and just being a bad thing. Like a certain element of stress helps productivity. Yeah, I've been so stressed out today. If I had no stress, we'd probably just be like sat here talking about everyone's favorite color because I'd had nothing on this slide. Yeah, so understand that stress is a productive thing as well as a non-productive thing and decide what stress is productive and what stress isn't. And then understand if you're coping or you're thriving. You might be really busy. You might be rushing to the gym. You might be rushing back. You might be rushing to get your steps in. You still might be thriving in your routine. It doesn't necessarily mean you're coping. And then, look at emotional eating patterns. Majority of eating behaviors is down to stress. We know this. Like eating is a form of emotional relief where we're only trying to find an emotion from that food. It's not a human requirement. We are not starving where we need those 400 calories of chocolate cake. We want that chocolate cake because there's an emotion, and it doesn't always have to be a negative emotion. we eat when we're happy, we drink when we're happy, we eat when we're sad, we drink when we're sad. But really understanding that and understanding your mechanisms. Um, having confidence in the process. Um, having confidence in yourself and learning to trust yourself. And again, you guys have all these coaching calls that I've just run over the past, 7 weeks in your on-demand resource collections. Go back and watch them all. They're there. You're going to have them for a week and a half. Go and watch them. And then you not necessarily need more information, but you'll think, oh God, I forgot about that and I forgot about that. And refresh your memory on some of the things I've spoken about because you've had 7 hours of intense education. There is a lot to take in. And then have confidence in yourself in the process. And then understand the difference between pressure and structure. Structure is going to relieve. As you can tell, my speech is going to start going in a minute. Pressure. The less structure, the more pressure that you have. It's as simple as that. So really, really understanding that if you feel really pressured and really overwhelmed, you've probably just not structured yourself well enough to cope with that pressure, which is all going to affect your mental health. Hunger and cravings. Again, think about normal diet hunger versus red flags. Are you going to be hungry sometimes in a dieting phase? Yeah, unfortunately. Again, we should never, there's a rating scale for this, and if you go to one, you'll understand like hunger scales and things like that and how we measure it. But we never want to get super hungry. Obviously, if we're getting super hungry, something's wrong. Um, evening cravings pattern. Are we constantly getting evening cravings? Are we constantly not being able to adhere? Something might be wrong. It might be stress. It might be food selection. It might be that your calories are too low. It might be that your expenditure is too high. Are we underfueled on training days? That's going to really impact our cravings. When we train, we're going to burn an additional 3,500 calories. For some clients, they'll be on training day macros, rest day macros. That is another really, really good technique that you can use to help with that. And then cycle related appetite changes, that is a huge one. But understanding your cycle, tracking your cycle, the app FLO is completely free to use. With one-to-one clients, I know exactly what day of their cycle they're on every week. Like if they're on a 28 or a 32-day cycle. Obviously I've got PCOS, it's a massive problem in my life. So I'm well informed on it and understanding your cycle really, really well so then you can manage your cravings because a lot of the time the problem's not the craving, it's understanding why you're feeling that way is half the battle. So if we're thinking about things like digestion, bloating, another one that we track massively one-to-one is fiber intake. It's not something that we track in group, but it's something that when you get your message every week, I'm reminding you about your fiber. Are you all hitting 30 grams of fiber a day? I doubt it. I think if we actually looked at the metrics, it'd probably be less than 20%. But it's just another thing that is really important. Fiber is classed as a macronutrient essentially, but it's obviously not got a calorie value. But that is the quality of your digestion. I have not ever had a client that has suffered with digestive issues that I have not fixed through fiber intake. And people who've been like heavily medicated, like IBS, like within like 6 to 8 weeks they're off medication and it's due to fiber. And I don't know why doctors don't, I don't know, talk about it more because it's so, so important. Stress impact on digestion. Again, it can go either way. You can become constipated. You can have diarrhea, and that affects obviously the amount of food you got in your stomach, your hunger levels, and the way that your body has the ability to use that stored energy as well. And that's why stress is very, very impactful. Scale fluctuations versus fat gain. My biggest pet hate, people worrying that scale weight means they're not losing fat, which is not the case. It's about trends. Yeah, you're going to scale weight's going to go up, it's going to go down, it's going to stay the same. It is about trends. And then creating a calm baseline. So something that is you can really, really stick to every single week. It brings you peace. It doesn't bring you stress. It is not overwhelming. But if you are stressed about drinking 3 litres of water a day, you need to have a word with yourself, yeah? Because it is very, very easy to do. So don't overthink it. Yeah. Again, checking forms. So these are things that we currently check. I currently check and what things that you would be getting checked on if you went into one-to-one. So we look at 3 things we've seen or improvements. We look at one thing we've struggled with, how many workouts you've completed, if you've attended your calls, how hard or easy you're finding it, do you look leaner, what's your compliance like, and eating out and alcohol. So quite basic, obviously, because if I did all this, it would take too long. I physically wouldn't be able to do the groups. So we look at resting heart rate. I look at heart rate during workouts and resting heart rate. Sleep quality. We look at your menstrual and your hormones and your HRT. your nutrition, your full food diary, your full training, your routine and structure, your specific macro targets, your fiber, your energy levels, your adherence, your eating out and alcohol, your reflection. We have a plan for the week ahead every single week. Your clarity, if you've got clarity on your week, your form videos, all your holidays that are coming up, including diet breaks, and then any additional support needed. So as you can see, it is double what we're currently doing. And that should be your checklist for yourself. If you do not want to go into one-to-one, that's what you should be looking at. As you can see, we've got 15 pages of check-in. We have 28 pages of check-in on one-to-one. So it is a little bit longer, about double what we're currently doing. Hormones and cycle, what I track. So you need to track your cycle phase, your energy levels, your cravings and hunger, your sleep changes, and your training performance. Everyone is slightly different. Yeah. Some people get an energy dip during ovulation. Most clients do not get an energy dip during ovulation. It's quite the opposite. Obviously, some people suffer really bad with PMS, PMDD, which is obviously on the week on the run up to period. Some people bleed really heavily and have long cycles. Some women don't. So, I need to understand each of my clients' specific hormone fluctuations because that is going to depend on how I coach them. Am I going to be hitting them down hard if I know they suffer with PMS or PMDD and they're heavily bleeding and they're 2 days before, they're coming off the period and their energy's tanked? No. So every approach is going to be slightly different and you really need to understand the length of your cycle. And then when it comes to perimenopause, I'll be saying to clients, right, you need to go get a blood test because I think you're in perimenopause. I think it's coming up for you. Why am I noticing that before the client? Because women have not got a good enough idea about their hormones and how they're reacting. It's because they're having to type it all out and I can see trends and I'm visually seeing what's going on. Follicular phase focus. So this is where obviously we want to push performance, progress loads and reps, higher training output, lower perceived effort. One-to-one, you have a whole coaching. Obviously Sam, I can see you here. Sam will know a lot about this because I came into her team and did a big coaching call on menstrual cycles and menopause. It's something that you get a lot of training on because it's very, very important when it comes to this journey. Again, even clients who've not been able to conceive or get their period back, we do all sorts of crazy things with food and with diet and with nutrition to help it. But understanding your phases is important. I cannot believe I used to train and have no idea. Like I just come on my period, I'm like, oh God, my period's here. I don't even know. Now I know when I'm 7 days out, 5 days out, 3 days out. Like it's like I know exactly where I am at all times, but it really helps reduce the mental load from how I'm feeling and also my performance when I'm training. There's no guesswork. Ovulation window, again, technique focus, joint stability, controlled loading. This is where you're coming into being quite strong, but you also can have a little bit of joint instability as well. This is where you're at your most fertile phase. Yeah, so your energy levels are pretty high in ovulation for most people. Some people it can dip. Then you've got your luteal phase. This is adherence over perfection. This is where shit hits the fan, basically. You're going to manage your cravings proactively, maintain intensity, adjust volume, more recovery focus. So this is where I might move my clients to a lighter weight, higher rep range. So if they're previously the week before, they've been working at, I don't know, an 8 to 12 rep range and they've been hitting 8 or 9 reps, it might be where they go to 11, 12 reps and reduce the load. So you'll see so many people online and it winds me up so much saying, oh, luteal phase, let's do yoga and Pilates and walking for 14 days. Like what? Like no, like you can still absolutely train, but it's just that might have to change your strategy a little bit in order for you to not injure yourself and keep your adherence up as well. Period week approach, keep the habit alive. All the basics should stay alive. We reduce all or nothing thinking, movement over performance, and manage moods or emotions. It's usually me who's managing moods or emotions of everyone. And for some reason, like I feel like everyone syncs up and like everyone likes me at the same time, and then everyone hates me at the same time. I feel like I'm not in my period week, and everyone's bullying me because they've not lost a pound on the scale because I know they're all due on. So it's more so about managing your mental health as well and making sure the basics are adhered to. Because if you're having a mental breakdown every 1 week of every month, over the course of 12 months, that's 3 months of the year. It's a quarter of your time on this journey. So it's really important it's well managed. Training audit. So when we look at your training, are we progressing? We're not always going to progress. The deeper you get into this journey, the less progression is going to happen, and that's why it is harder, not easier. Proximity to failure. Again, I can only know this through form videos. You know, loads of people say, "Oh, what should I be lifting? Like, what weight do I do on this?" it's irrelevant because I can't say to, right, Mary, you need to go do a 30 kilo back squat when she can't even do the bar with good form. So that's why it's critical that we look at form videos and I visually look at you training, and that's how I teach you how to get proximity to failure. Recovery between sessions, are we doing upper lower full on Wednesday, Thursday, Friday? Because if we are, that's going to be problematic. If we can only train Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, we need to change the training split. And then is your program in alignment with your goal? Yeah. If someone tells me they don't want to train upper body, I will not coach them. Yeah. We'll always want a well-rounded physique, but it might be that a certain client wants to grow and develop legs or grow and develop glutes. Brilliant. That will be a focus area for a period of time. We can't grow everything at once. We can't improve everything at once because there's too many muscle groups. Yeah. So this is where, for example, at the start, you do a really in-depth training questionnaire about exactly what you want to achieve, what the time available has, which gym you go to, or look at the gym layout, what equipment you've got from home. Like every single program is so specifically bespoke, and that's why programming is so lengthy and so time consuming. I love programming, but it means that when it group coaching, you just tick a box, right? Intermediate, beginner, advanced. They're all set programs because I couldn't build 50 bespoke programs. It wouldn't work. So training audit is really, really important. And it means that we can change things over time. If you're getting a knee niggle or you're getting something with your back, we can change it. I change it and we make sure that you're constantly progressing. Sally, I'm looking at you now, but when Sally came to me, he had like hypermobility on ankles and could hardly squat. And then we put in loads of different squat patterns and loads of different ways of using like Smith machine and dumbbells and heel elevated. And now you pretty much, I mean, I've obviously just reviewing your squats before I came on here and it's like night and day. So massive, massive improvements, not just in physique, but in performance as well. Training is productive stress, yeah? Training is stress. It's inflammation. So that's why I don't want anyone training when they're poorly, for one. But more is not always better. 3 times a week, I have helped clients lose over £100 training 3 times a week. I have got clients shredded training 3 times a week. Nikki, that posts quite a few photos on the group, who's 48, I think she's 48. I don't want to say 49 because if she's 48, she'll kill me. Who's absolutely jacked, trains 3 times a week. She doesn't go to a gym. Yeah, you do not need these 5 day splits. You do not need gyms. Gyms are beneficial. You don't need them. More is not always better. Yeah. I've trained 4 times a week. I could train 3 times a week. I could train five. I like to do strength training 4 times a week. That works well for me. I'd like to do more because I love the gym, but it's not going to be beneficial. Yeah. Recovery dictates progression. All the progression that you make to your physique is done outside of the gym. We don't build muscle in the gym. We actually tear muscle down. It is through our nutrition and our sleep and our recovery and our stress management that we actually recover them muscle fibers. So don't go away from this group coaching and start doing Stairmaster and start doing all these things and thinking, oh my God, I'm on this big motivation hype now. Let's push it down harder. No, you will burn out and you will not end up at the end result that you want. A deficit reduces recovery capacity. When you're dieting and when you're in the gym, your recovery is going to be way poorer than if you weren't. That's why I don't like doing long fat loss phases. We do it, we achieve it, we get out of it. Yeah. 16 weeks will be my max, but I'll always put diet breaks in there anyway. And even if a client's got a significant amount of weight to lose, that still remains the same. And that's why if clients are not being adherent, I just put the calories up to maintenance because they're wasting the time. Because we want to get in there, we want to get out there because deficit is problematic. It is problematic. Deloads are strategic. So again, deload weeks, that is basically when we either A, just do not go to the gym, or we go to the gym at a lower capacity. Preferably for me, how I like to run deload weeks for my clients is look at when they've got holidays, when they're going abroad, and see when that's spaced out, and then say to them, I don't want you training. Because then we can kind of put it in as deload week, and then they feel mentally relaxed because they know they don't need to go. Yeah, but if you've not got holidays going up, like we can't just train hard hitting for months and months on end. Like your body's not going to recover. So again, deload weeks can be strategic, but they can also be, I can see when someone needs one and I will put it in. And a lot of the time they go, oh, thanks so much. That's just relieved a load of stress off me. So training is stress. We need to know when we need to push it hard, but we also need to know when we can recover from it as well. Weekly form feedback priorities. Again, this is just me. I film all my own training sessions, yeah, because I sit and I analyze it. I go, well, that was a piece of shit. Because sometimes you do something and you think it's good and you go back and you watch it. Yeah. So I will look at my setup, I'll look at my stability, I'll look at my control, I'll look at my range of motion, and I'll look at my consistency across sets. And then when I watch it, then I can determine, right, do I need to push or not? You need to film yourself training. Yeah. I am horrified at some of how I used to train. Yeah. And even now, even though I do this for a job, I know how to train. I know how to train very well. I will look back and I'll go, right, okay, I would have thought I've pushed myself to failure. And I'll look at the video and I go, what? Like I definitely had two more reps in. And that is the kind of self-criticism you need to do. Obviously, if you're coached by me, I'll criticize you for you. You don't need to worry about that. So understanding like when it comes to form, when it comes to form evaluations, it's a huge part of the coaching. Good, like you're stepping out and oh God, sorry. I was going to show you a video of me evaluating somebody else, just Nikki that I looked at the other day, and kind of what it would look like when you submit your videos to me. Good, like you're stepping out and forwards and you're leaning forwards, which is good. The thing that you're doing is you're just going way too quick. So when you go into that front lunge, you still want to be slow and controlled. You don't just want to lunge straight down, like you're just going very, very quick. And then that weight, see how it's like dangling at either side of your body? Just make sure that weight is actually prioritized hanging over the front foot. So slow and controlled. Don't step out quite as much. Show you the demonstration and just really think about slow, bending into it, leaning forwards, feeling the stretch in the glute, and then pushing off and keeping all your weight in your heel. So again, if we look at the video, you'll see how essentially slow I'm going. See, I'm pausing. I'm stepping up and out, but I'm not doing it to the point where I'm stepping to the side. See how the dumbbells are over that front leg? Stepping forwards, slow, and I'm pausing. See the pause? Pausing before I come back up. Yeah? Can you see how much slower that is compared to... So you get the gist. And there'll be another one here, I think, in a second as well. So I'll always get your video up. I'll get my video up. Usually I'll put them side by side and I'll play them at the same time. So then you can actually see where you're going wrong in terms of tempo and how you're going wrong in terms of like hip shifting and things like that. We always want progression where possible, like without adding load. So we can look at rep progression, tempo control, pauses and holds, and improved execution. Especially if I get clients that are coming from, they've already trained, I might slash all their weight that they're using in half because their form's bad and start them and build them the way back up and actually get form execution right, because improving your form is a form of progressive overload. Yeah. I think there'll be another video here of Susie. Sorry, Susie, but you're in here. Yeah, so this looks really good. Like you're nice and strict, which is fab. Your shoulders just look a little bit high. I feel like you're concentrating that much on your form. You're like hunching. I can't see from the side. You just look a little bit hunched, like on a tightrope. So from the side, this was when I was in New Zealand, by the way. So the house looks a bit. Pull your hips up, but bend your knees and then hinge into the position. And then obviously elbows are fixed, and you're here. What you're doing is, if I pop the camera up a little bit, when you go up, you're like hunching because you're like preparing for the fact you're going to have to press down. So pull these back. So then when you press down, your shoulders are staying fixed. Can you see there's no movement in my shoulders? Just because as soon as your shoulders move up, it's going to bring them into the movement, which is obviously what we don't want. So as you can see, so clients will send anywhere from like 3 to 8 videos a week. So there is a lot of time involved in training execution because it is a really, really important part of the process. And it is night and day, the clients who send videos and the clients who don't. And I actually was just speaking to a client this morning and I said, I will only bring you on to continued coaching if you promise you will send 3 videos a week, because you're just not going to get the result that I would be proud of. And at the end of the day, everyone's walking around in bodies that I am trying to improve. Yeah, so I want people to be walking around with results. You know, if someone says, oh God, you're in good shape. Oh yeah, get coached by Sophie. That's what I want. Yeah, so it's really important to me that you're getting the best result. Injuries, if you get injured, train around pain, not through it. Never train through pain. Maintain what you can. Nutrition drives fat loss. Do not get injured. Well, I mean, don't get injured for one, but like, don't make the excuse if you do come up with an injury of like, you cannot make progress. Because, like I've said before, I lost my first 50 pounds without stepping foot in the gym. I know it's frustrating, but it's still a possibility. And then rehab becomes the focus. And again, we'll be talking about injuries shortly. Nutrition adjustment. So when I change calories, because everyone will always say, when do I change my calories? What do I do? True stall with full adherence. Like, notice full adherence being the word here. If you are having a true stall, even though adherence is full, yeah, this can happen. So 2 times today with 2 separate one-to-one clients, I have put calories up. Yeah. One of them, don't know if she's been adherent or not, but you know, we've been this way for a little time, so we put the calories up. But sometimes you do get a full store with adherence. Your body has had enough. Dieting, your body's metabolic rate will slow down over time, like I've said before, blinking slower, moving your hands less, not training as hard. Bringing your calories up and having higher training performance and having more movement will actually essentially burn more calories anyway. But the problem is when you're making decisions about yourself, it's emotional. When I'm making decisions about somebody, it's because I can see the data and I know what's going to help. So we're only going to change it if you've had a true stall with full adherence. And I would say like 4 weeks without significant progress. Biofeedback's still good. So like your sleep's good, your step's good, everything else is still good. We don't change calories if you sleep shit because we fix the sleep. Performance stable, and it's a trend, not a single week. So don't adjust anything on a weekly basis. Wait till a full 4 weeks because you've got to think that is the full 4 week of a general hormonal cycle anyway. Macro priorities, protein is always going to stay high. Fats have a practical flaw, so you always never want to go, I would say, under 40 grams of fat. Under 40 grams of fat, you are heading into hormonal imbalance territory, which we don't want. Carbs are always going to match your output. The more output, the more carbs that you're going to be on. And adherence always wins every time. Yeah. 21 grams of protein, just shy of 100 grams. Again, I'm not going to play this whole video because we've not got the time, but I'm going to just show you, for example, like how I would execute and how I would look at a food diary and what I would change based upon what I can see from a food diary. Grams of berries and obviously rolled oats, 40 grams. It's not necessarily bad, but we need a way to increase protein. For me personally, I would add maybe a little bit more protein powder in, or you could maybe add some egg whites in. But if you're not training in the morning, I wouldn't advise oats. This is a really good like pre-training breakfast. But if you are, it depends where you're training. If you're training, fabulous. If not, I would most definitely go for something like 2 boiled eggs with some cottage cheese on some sourdough with some tomatoes and cucumber. A higher fat breakfast because the fat's quite low here. And most women bode better with a higher fat breakfast rather than a higher carb breakfast if they're not training and you're not going to utilize those carbohydrates. I don't know why this is so low in protein with that protein that you're having. I don't think it's a very high protein. It's protein dynamics. I'd have something like Optimum Nutrition vanilla ice cream, something like that. It's going to give you a little bit more protein. And then berries like 100 to 125 grams, so a little bit more volume there. Here, this is a really decent meal. Obviously, main source of protein here is your beef mince. I would ideally go down to 5% fat, just utilize a little bit, save a little bit more fat because that is what keeps going over for you. Butter beans are good for a source of fibre here, which is, there's no issue there. And mixed vegetables, 50 grams. Chopped tomatoes, 20. With vegetables, you want 150 grams of veg per serving. So again, I would have a little bit more of this. This is mainly a carbohydrate. But I would also say the macros aren't tracking accurately for this. Now, this is where you just need to be a little bit careful. So in carbohydrates, there is 4 calories per gram. So if it's 3 grams of carbohydrates, that is 12. And then plus, oh no, it's right. Oh no, so it's 12 calories with carbohydrates. There's 1 gram of protein, which is 4 calories. So that's 16. So if those macros were correct, that should be 16 calories, which it's not. So there's an inaccuracy with your macro tracking here. So if we put in macros for 20 grams of... So you can kind of see what I mean there when it comes to food diaries. Like I literally go through every single item that you're eating for every single meal and I explain what's doing well, what macro it's hitting. So when I'm adjusting your macros, say I'm putting your carbohydrates up, I can do it based upon the food that you're eating and say, right, okay, for meal 3, you need to increase this amount of food by this amount of grams. So there's no guesswork. So when you think about it like that in terms of like group coaching, it's just a completely different level of service. But that is why you still need to carry on with your food tracking and your macro tracking. So what I'm essentially assessing on a weekly review is scale trend, measurements and photos, your data training, your steps of routine and your feedback forms. So there's a lot that obviously goes into what we're assessing every single week. What changes versus a push week versus a protect week? So if you've got higher readiness, we're pushing it. You know, we're pushing for PBs, we're pushing for that deficit deeper, we're pushing for the steps being higher. If you're a high stress, we're a protect week. Yeah. We're just sometimes maintaining, and that's okay. Both phases drive progress. Yeah. A protect week is still going to drive progress because it's not going backwards way on. Yeah. If you're constantly pushing your weeks in your high stress weeks, what's going to happen? You're going to fall off the bandwagon, go AWOL for 6 weeks, and then come back and cry to me and say you put on 10 pounds. Not helpful. Yeah. Timing matters for each phase, and having open communication with your coach or with me is what's going to determine that. But then also having conversations with yourself and just giving yourself that alleviation that it might just be a protect week. your weekly self audit, score your biofeedback, identify the bottleneck, make one change only, and repeat consistently. That is all that you need to do. This stuff isn't hard to an extent. It's just us not overcomplicating it. The biggest mistake, changing everything at once, reacting to the scale. Yeah, who said this last week? I literally could have just blocked and deleted them out of my life. I think they said, oh yeah, sorry, scale weight's gone up today, but I'll weigh Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday next week and watch it come down. No, 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 we don't do that. Hide those scales, yeah? So don't react to scale weight. Hide the scales, it doesn't matter. Letting emotion lead decisions, chasing perfection, and give it up. Yeah, none of those, please. Why to one coaching different? Obviously, pattern recognition. I recognize patterns. I've seen it hundreds of times. I think I've coached 420 women after this group. That is a lot of women to see a lot of patterns of behavior from. Deci- Decision making without personal emotions. So, sorry about that. Dog's just moving rooms. Decision making without personal emotions. I don't care. Like, I don't care about your emotions when it comes to the decisions that I make, yeah? So, like, if you're saying you're stressed out to hell and then I want to put your calories up and you go, well, I don't put my calories up, I don't lose, I don't care. I know what you need, yeah? And over time, clients will push back, but then over time, when they get a result, they'll start trusting me and not argue with me. Knowledge behind changes. I know why I'm doing things. I'm never gonna make your journey harder or make your journey longer. Like, why would I? Like, it's just pointless. Phase specific strategy, coaching the person, not the plan. Yeah, so the plan can change. We coach the person. You coach yourself, you don't coach the plan. The plan might have to change, yeah? And then 12 months of coach versus yourself, what would win quicker? If you coach yourself properly, that would work better than you just winging it. If I coached you, that would obviously work quicker. But choose the path that you think is going to be best for you. The end goal to this whole process is having confidence in your own adjustments, consistent progress through real life, a physique you can maintain, and a system that you can just repeat forever. Yeah, that's what you want. Of course, you want. Again, coaching is always beneficial. I mean, I love being coached in general just because it takes the decision fatigue from me. So I've got hair in my hair, it's so annoying. Decision fatigue from me. It doesn't, and again, it takes the emotion from me. Very, very hard for me to do a bulk and a reverse diet without a coach because I don't like the scale going up. I don't like everything getting tight and me feeling all watery. Like, no, I bloody hate it. Like, I have to tell someone to tell me to shut up, and I've got a lot of knowledge in it. Um, Hot seat time. Salia. Are you still here? Somewhere?
Yeah, can you hear me?
I can hear you. So I'm just going to introduce Sally, and then obviously I'll be asking a couple of questions. So, Sally came to me after having a significant fat loss journey. She had a history of eating disorders and an all or nothing approach. Obviously, she wanted to move the focus away from just being smaller and focus on strength and confidence. We started with a structured, supported fat loss phase. And then we have now transitioned into a long-term controlled reverse dieting phase. So now Sally is eating close to 2,500 calories, which is pretty crazy from someone with a background of being worried about food. Obviously, huge improvements in training, performance, energy, and lifestyle. And obviously, we've built a very, very strong relationship with the food, with the food like it's a person, with food, with training. She does a hybrid program with training from home. So, really, really inspiring story. It works exceptionally hard. One of my favorite clients, even though I shouldn't have favorites because the check-ins are so detailed. Um, but just to ask you, Sally, like, what was your relationship, with food and training like before you started, coaching with me? Because I know you've done quite a bit of work on yourself before that.
Yeah, so just before I started with you, I was in like a total rut because I started to regress with everything. So I had been coached in the past, so I had a lot of knowledge. I kind of understood how to like track macros and I thought I understood how to execute form correctly in the gym, but I stand corrected now after being coached with you. But yeah, I was basically just winging it. I was trying to coach myself and not really getting anywhere. I was able to like maintain my scale weight, but my body definitely like went through some weird recomposition and I had like more fat than muscle, so I could tell that things were changing and slipping backwards. And then the kind of like low point of that rut was actually feeling like the old eating disorder mindset was trying to kind of like leak back in. So I knew that I just needed some assistance to kind of get back on track with everything.
Fabulous. And in terms of like, obviously you've worked with another coach before, you've worked with me, like what were the comparisons and what were like the different things that you've learned from like each process, like being coached from a different perspective as well?
So like the coaching in the past was quite different because like the coaches would set me macro targets and give me a training program and it was one-to-one in-person coaching. So the form reviews were done like in the gym in real time, which was great. And I did lose a lot of fat, but there wasn't any check-in in terms of biofeedback. So there was no reviewing the process. There was no like actual conversation around what's to come, how they're going to help me to reach whatever my sort of like end goal was. And there was no learning at all. So I wasn't taught anything. Any understanding about nutrition and exercise that I had was self-taught. So then when I started coaching with you, the biggest thing that stood out was the way that you teach the foundations and the principles behind everything. Like for me, that just cemented a lot of the knowledge that I had, and it made it really easy to just like trust the process. Whereas with previous coaches, it was like completely like almost like blind coaching. Um, so yeah, it's like completely different. And on top of all of that, obviously you're like incredibly like warm, kind, understanding. You coach beyond just fitness coaching, in my opinion, because you offer that like emotional and almost like life coaching.
Therapy, yeah, life
Yeah.
coaching.
And yeah, like that's definitely not something that I experienced before. But then you've also got like a really good balance of like tough love. So when you need to step in and actually take away like decision fatigue and just be really, really clear about what somebody needs to keep moving forward, you will do that and not sort of like tread on eggshells. So yeah,
Oh,
completely different.
thank you so much. That's so sweet. Um, in terms of like, obviously you're on like just short of 2,500 calories at the moment. Like, what would have the old you thought about eating that amount of food?
Impossible. I would have like associated 2,500 calories with like people who are like athletes.
Well, you
And
pretty much are at the moment.
but I wish that's the goal. But I think like I obviously associated high calories with fat gain and low calories with fat loss. So very much had like a strict calories in, calories out mindset, like a massive emphasis in the past on like how to burn calories. Whereas now 2,500 calories, like yeah, it's a lot of food, but it's like very easy to kind of adhere to because I'm not hungry all the time. So I feel like super well nourished. And I kind of look at it differently now. So I do look at food as fuel for performance. So yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
wouldn't have ever thought that I would be on 2,500 calories. Like, absolutely not. But also, like, it's something that I always wanted because I wanted to have food freedom and I wanted to move away from always being on a diet and actually like experience like what you see all these like Instagram fitness influencers that are on like 5,000 calories and look amazing. Like I kind of wanted to know if it was possible for me. And now I know it is.
And I think the thing is as well, like, and what's really interesting about Sally's story is the reverse diet is just as important as the fat loss phase. And I think a lot of people like will finish a fat loss phase and go, right, I'm sorted, I'm done now. If Sally would have finished that fat loss phase and gone straight up to 2,500 calories, she would have gained all the weight back very, very quickly. So doing it slow and doing it controlled and like really focusing on building muscle during that phase and like managing all those metrics is really, really important as well. I mean, in terms of like your relationship with like training and like the gym and stuff, like obviously your gym has come on hugely and like your form execution, do you feel like you train differently to how you used to train?
Yeah, absolutely. I feel my like mind to muscle connection is so good now and there's like muscle groups that I just couldn't ever feel before. So I just thought, oh, I'm like dominant in other areas, like more quad dominant and could never feel my glutes. And now I'm like I can feel everything. I feel more like connected to my body than ever before as a result of that. And like I'm somebody who like I hired a coach because I was too scared to start going to the gym. So I kind of thought if I have somebody to hold my hand through the process, then that's my in. So yeah, for someone who used to be incredibly socially anxious and just totally overwhelmed with doing it by myself, to now somebody who has you as an online coach, and I go into the gym like with complete confidence, and even change my program up and there might be exercises in there that I've never done before in my life. I don't feel stupid anymore to kind of like be somebody who's trying something new. And I kind of like see the gym as a little bit of a playground and somewhere where you can develop and be a bit creative rather than, okay, I need to walk in here and know exactly what I'm doing, otherwise I'm just not going to walk in. So it's like, yeah, being coached by you has sort of like challenged some of my like residual gym anxiety and absolutely like, yeah, turned me into somebody who's very, very confident with it.
Amazing. And I think as well, like when you, it's kind of created a thought for me is that, if we think about the glute, I don't know, the hip thrust, the barbell hip thrust, that was only invented, like I can't remember that how many years ago, but that is a fairly new exercise in the relation of the gym world. Do you think like if you've seen somebody do that movement like 20 years ago, people would have been like, what are they doing thrusting a barbell on the floor? They look ridiculous. Now it is like the number one exercise for glute growth. And that's the thing, guys, there is no rules when it comes to the gym. Yeah, you are moving a load to create a resistance at the end of the day. Like, I mean, Sally is doing like, I don't know, chest supported double cable rear delt flies, like things that you've probably never even heard of before. And that's the thing, like the gym, like you might see someone do something one way and something do something another way. Like there is no rules, and that's why you should have confidence in what you're doing. I mean, obviously you've got videos and things you follow and you send your form videos into me and I evaluate it. But when I'm in the gym, if I see someone in good shape and they're doing a certain movement, I'm like, oh, what are they doing? Like, and then I'll like go research and I'll look it up and that's the great thing about training. And Salia, has managed to get to this point because of adherence and consistency. So she checks in every single week on time. I don't think she's ever missed a check-in unless she's been unwell. We know all her holidays are in advance and we create deload weeks. Like we prepare for things. Obviously, it's Ramadan at the minute. We've been discussing that and obviously putting a plan in place. My jaw dropped the floor when I did your check-in today and you'd eaten like two. I thought, how has she found the time to eat all those calories? But again, like you said, she feels like the knowledge that I've given her before about how to create calorie dense foods and things like that have allowed her to still hit her macros. So if you can't hit your macros and you've got a 12-hour window to eat and she's got a couple of hours, there's no excuse. But yeah, massive well done, Salia. You should be exceptionally proud of yourself. And I'm really, really looking forward to getting the calories even higher and building even more muscle. So congratulations and you're a pleasure to coach.
Thank you.
Um, Sam, you can always see bad form. I saw a chap last week doing tricep dips. He was basically shrugging his shoulders. Yeah, Sam, you should go over and tell him. Thank you so much for that, Sally. I really appreciate that. Have we got Emma? Oh, I
Yeah,
can see her.
I'm here. Can you see me?
Oh, sorry. I'll just go to you, Emma. I'll come back to you, Carly. It's just because I was worried that you might not get on, Carly, because it was very last minute. Um, So just to introduce Emma, so Emma joined, she's referred by another one of my clients called Nat. Obviously she was 18 months out from her wedding. We had a long-term vision, but the goal was never purely obviously for the wedding. It was quite a way away. The great thing when Emma came to me is that she gave me plenty of time. She didn't come to me and say, "Oh, I'll get married in 10 weeks." Obviously we wanted fat loss, we wanted toning up, we wanted strength, confidence as the main goals, managing progress alongside her autoimmune condition, learning how to adapt training and nutrition during flare-ups. Obviously, nearly 20 pounds down now. I didn't put your photos in, Emma, because we've not discussed it, and I would never do that
All
just
right.
without discussing. Sustainable approach. Obviously, we're building a routine that works when things aren't always predictable, and then obviously stronger, more confident in control of the process. So we've got loads of time yet until the wedding, which is good. But what made you sign up to coaching, Emma, initially?
Yeah, so as Sophie mentioned, I'm friends with Nat, and I was at her wedding last summer, and she just looked phenomenal. I mean, she looks phenomenal anyway, but she was glowing and she was so happy and she looked healthy and confident. And I just was like, oh my God, I'm obsessed with you. You look amazing. And I said to her, what have you been doing? And that's when she had sort of mentioned Sophie and put me in touch. And yeah, yeah, the chain continues. Yeah, exactly. And yeah, I think for me, I was I was someone that I kind of always like dabbled in like Pilates, or I would do gym classes, or I was like trying the newest thing on TikTok that everyone swore I would lose loads of weight by. And I just nothing really ever stuck. I didn't have a huge amount of accountability with myself. And I felt like I was kind of trying diets that were really restrictive and unsustainable. And I was like, I just need to do something different. And Nat was like, I think Sophie would work really, really well for you. And she was right. So that sort of I was like, I think it's the right decision to give something like coaching a go, which I'd never done before, and just have the kind of accountability and consistency like forced upon me, because otherwise I would just take the easy route and be like, I'm not feeling great, I'm just going to take a month off. So yeah, that's sort of what led me to you.
Amazing. And how was your like physical and mental state before you started? Like, what were the areas that you really wanted to see some changes in?
Yeah, so as I've mentioned, I kind of have immune system issues. I was really unwell when I was young, and as a result, I've just got a pretty much non-existent immune system. And so I was not in a great place. I was at my heaviest that I'd ever been, and gaining like week on week. I was unwell. I was coming off of I'd had a really nasty chest infection, which had developed into pneumonia, and I had kind of lung damage and just feeling really awful. And as a result, I had just stopped doing anything because I was so scared to make myself worse or to just kind of struggle at all. So I just had stopped completely. And so, kind of, the combination of that was I was just feeling rubbish physically, feeling rubbish mentally. I was exhausted, and just really felt like I needed a change. I was like desperate for a change. And I think I was on quite a lot of medication, and it's really interesting. Like, medical doctors weren't really giving me like holistic approaches to how to feel better. It was like, take this, take this, take this, and maybe it'll work. But if not, you sort of need to just rest and suck it up. And I just felt like I needed to find something that would kind of give me my life back a little bit. So yeah, not in the best of places. So,
And have you felt, because I know you mentioned it the other day, like have you felt like you bounce back when you do get unwell has been a lot quicker and
yeah,
illnesses are improving now?
yeah, massively. And I think that for me, obviously, the weight loss has been great and I feel so much more confident in myself. But that for me is probably the biggest win that I've got out of this program is my health has like dramatically improved. My chronic cough has pretty much disappeared. My lung capacity, like I had my breathing test like a month ago, and it has dramatically improved. I have so much more energy. I still get sick, and that is just like the reality, unfortunately, of like my situation. But if I get sick, I'm my kind of the severity of it is much less, and I bounce back so much quicker. So I caught a bug like a week ago that would have probably floored me for like 3 weeks, and I didn't take a day off work. I, worked from home because I've learned my boundaries and how to like look after myself and put myself first. But I now feel completely fine. I've fully recovered. I'm off all my medications, so I now am completely meds free and probably at my best. And I didn't actually think that would ever be possible with where I was at pre doing this program with Sophie. So yeah, for me, I think that has been the biggest win of all is kind of feeling so much better. And the
Yeah.
weight loss is also great,
Yeah.
obviously.
And then that is again not that stress as well, like because with the wedding coming up and like everything that you've got to
Yeah,
plan as well, like that stress is going to impact that as well. So like
yeah,
putting yourself in that best position, and that's why it was great that she had that goal so far away ahead of time because nothing was rushed and we've been able to do things slowly and gently and understand that there's going to be weeks that are off and not every week's going to be perfect. So, like, what would you say to like people who think that every single week needs to be fully perfect and fully adherent?
yeah. I think for me, I used to kind of think I was very all or nothing. Like if I had a bad week, I'd be like, right, that's great. I'll just do whatever I want for a week because it's not, I'm going to go backwards anyway. But I think what I've learned from this process is I just, by nature of what I kind of have to deal with my health, I will probably never have like a run of 8 weeks of perfect weeks because I will come down with something or have an off week. But I've kind of found what consistent means for me and actually just showing up for myself, putting myself first, even if it means that I'm not in the gym any at all that week, but I have eaten and met my macros each day, and I've taken the dog out for a walk, and I've gotten fresh air and my steps in, and I've done my self care, and I've gotten a good night's sleep. Like for me, that's still a pretty perfect week, even if I haven't managed to train. I didn't train last week because I wasn't well, and I knew that I needed to kind of prioritize that instead. But I think yeah, there's no perfect week. It's just like you can, I think it's perfect if you're showing up for yourself and kind of trying. So I've just tried to really change my mindset and that as well.
Yeah. I love that saying, like what you just said. I'll have to write that down and use that. Um, in terms of like having weekly check-ins and like having adjustments, like do you feel like that's helped with the accountability piece when you mentioned like before you just let yourself slide and things like that?
Yeah, no, massively. I like I'm someone I aim to like I like to please, so I don't want to annoy Sophie by having a bad week. So
You actually very rarely, I don't think you've ever annoyed me to be fair,
no.
which I can't say about most people.
But yeah, massively, because it's also just a point of kind of saying, being able to see how my week has gone and knowing like what could I have done better this week, or have I actually let work take over massively and therefore I'm exhausted and therefore I'm catching a bug that I'd probably, if I had set my boundaries and been a bit clearer in that. And I think having that check-in time, that accountability, having the feedback on my training, having the feedback on my macros, like I just, my weeks are so different now because I'm like, I know what I need to do every day. And then also having the adjustments. So, like, if I am having a week where I'm having a flare up, I can say to Sophie, I'm not doing well this week. And so I can't train, or I need this or I need that. And like, if I'm having a really bad week, Sophie will say, just eat, 400 or 500 more calories because your body needs it this week. And so it kind of, I just feel so much like reassurance from being able to kind of have that weekly check in, and I don't think I'd have come anywhere near as far if I hadn't have had it.
Yeah. Amazing. Well, thank you so much, Emma. It's so
Thank you.
inspiring to hear about obviously the massive improvements, but then also how positive you are with everything. And obviously your results speak for themselves. Obviously, we know what they look like and they're pretty bloody good. So thank you so much for sharing your story.
Thank
I'm
you.
really lovely to hear.
Thanks, Sophie.
Um, I'll speak to you soon. And then we have, last but not least, Carly. So I think that should be 2,300. But so Carly joined One to One in August 2023. So God, well that would be bloody like nearly 3 years ago this year. That's crazy.
Oh,
Um,
gee.
I know, an OG. You were an OG actually. One of the first 30, I think, that I coached. Um, so come from an athletic background, netball player in the gym, was in a really, really like healthy, fit position, but obviously still wanted to lose body fat. So we had an initial fat loss phase, and she'd successfully lost 40 pounds, which is a huge, huge achievement. We reversed her back up. She gained about 10 pounds of scale weight, but reversed her up past 2,000 calories. And then she had, did you have another knee injury or was it just another operation, Carly?
No, another injury, which was 10
Yeah.
times worse than the first one.
Yeah, so she came to with a knee injury. We fixed that and then she went and did it again. Classic behavior. So obviously major knee operation. If anyone knows about ACLs and MCLs and all that, they are major. Um, she's had time away. She's had a knee operation and then she's come back to the group just for a bit of accountability. Callie's very knowledgeable because obviously she had a lot of time in one-to-one. Obviously we're back in a fat loss phase now with structure and momentum again, while obviously protecting, making sure she doesn't do the knee again. And then obviously we want to be stronger, more educated, and in control of the process. So it's been quite a lot of years I've known you, Carly. So when
Yeah.
you before you joined coaching, obviously you were active, you were in the gym, like, you weren't exactly struggling from a motivational perspective. So why did you, I guess, inquire to be coached?
Yeah, I think I was struggling from a motivation perspective because I think that I think the best way to describe it was just lack of education, and I was, to be honest, in denial. Like you said, I got my steps in. I went to the gym maybe once or twice a week. I played netball once a week, but I didn't know anything about protein, didn't know anything about macros. I think you've talked about this quite a lot, Sophie. The whole concept around eating clean doesn't necessarily mean eating the right things. So, like, I would think that, oh, because I've, eaten like pasta and vegetables, that is a healthy meal, but it was maybe a meal that was like 700 calories. And I just didn't know. So, yeah, like huge portions, carbs. I drank alcohol, a lot of alcohol. But I was just in denial about, I was like, oh, I don't understand why I've ended up, being the body shape that I am. And I think, yeah, so I initially came to Sophie off the back of spraining my knee during a netball match. And while I was on crutches from that injury, which was fairly minor, um,
yeah, it was just like such a low point because I thought, God, I can't even go to the gym now, and I feel like such a slob, you know. And I think that was a little bit of a wake up call. I was like, shit, I actually really need to do something here. Um, and then the other side of it was, I think it was an identity thing for me. The biggest change that I got from doing the Elevate program, like the first time around, was um the changing identity that I had, because I always saw myself as like, I'm always going to be this way. Like, I'm always going to be the fat friend. Like, I'm never going to have a different body. Like, I'm never going to be the muscly person or the motivated person. I had like that self identity, which is obviously really bad. So yeah, I kind of wanted to see, oh, maybe I could do some changes, but I don't think I really believed that I was going to get the result that I did get in the end. Yeah.
Amazing. It's so good that you've said about identity because we spoke about that a couple of weeks ago, and I talk a lot about identity. And I told you guys, it's not just me who says it works. Carly yourself. Um, Obviously, from coming from a background of being active but not necessarily having the structure and the consistency, did you feel like that one-to-one check-ins and being held accountable to like what you were tracking, what you were eating, what we were changing was what helped change your behavior?
Yeah, and I actually spoke about it with my partner at the time because I'd always struggled with my weight. As I said, I'd always been like the overweight one in the group, and I was always, very down about it. I would get very upset about my body image, and I would talk to my partner about it, and he would say, "Look, I want to help you, but it's toxic for me to do so," which I think was the best answer actually, because I've heard of quite a few women where their partners are like trying to get them to lose weight, which is really horrible. Yeah, so he said, look, I can't be the one to tell you like don't eat that or go to the gym. He's like, it kind of has to come from a third party. And that's why I ended up working with Sophie, because I do think that having someone who's like stranger sounds like the wrong word now because we know each other, but yeah, like someone who is not in your personal life and no, I think that's much more effective. I think of it in the same way as like if you go to the doctors, you just trust what they say, right? You're not going to start like arguing with the doctor because they're the professional. So yeah, I do think having the accountability and the form was a really big thing for me as well. I think a couple of people have mentioned like watching Instagram videos or YouTubers or something, and I think that's helpful, but until you actually see like your own video versus Sophie's video or the training video, I don't think it really like sinks in.
Yeah.
I think that became especially more relevant the more advanced that I got with the gym training as well. Like for example, even now if I'm doing an RDL or I'm doing a dumbbell, what's it even called? The one where you're pulling the dumbbell up, dumbbell row, that's it. I've got Sophie's voice in my head going to the hips, not up. So there's like various movements that are actually kind of complicated and don't really come naturally to you. And I think unless you film yourself and send them to someone to review, you just don't know. I think someone said it in the chat earlier on as well, like the amount of people I see with bad form in the gym, and I really want to tell them, but I'm like, ugh, it's not my place.
And I think that's the thing is if you've done like gym classes and things like that, I used to teach gym classes, you do bent over rows, you see the guy or the girl and you do it yourself, but like that will be nowhere near that we need. And a lot of people say, oh, form doesn't matter. But when you get to say Carly's position where she's 140 pounds, if she was training badly, we wouldn't create abs, we couldn't create nice shoulders, we couldn't create good glutes because training execution is so important. And the leaner they get, the more apparent that it is as well. So
Yeah. And
yeah.
that's my problem now. That's why I've rejoined. So I I know that my muscles are under there, but they have been hidden because last year I had a extremely major knee injury. I don't know if anyone's familiar with ACLs and meniscuses, but I basically ripped up the whole entire inside of my knee, and I went through like a triple knee surgery, which for someone who is really active and was like totally on it with the gym and had all these amazing results was quite difficult. And yeah, to be honest, kind of went off the rails because I was in a really bad place mentally afterwards. You're not able to walk for like 6 weeks, yeah. Let alone go to the gym. So I'm only just getting back into the gym now. I still can't like bend down, for example. So, it's all about the reason for joining the group coaching was all about just like getting that accountability back, getting back into the swing of things. But I think the nice thing is that I know I can do it. So it's more about like unearthing that rather than starting from scratch, which is nice. I'm not sure what it would be like if I'd had this injury as the previous me. I think it would have been, yeah, really bad.
Yeah, and I was going to say, do you feel a little bit more mentally relieved because you have obviously done it before? You know what the process is, you've got the education there, so it's more like applying the principles rather than being like, you know you're going to be able to see to get a result essentially, don't you?
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. I guess there's also an element of like, it's a little bit embarrassing, right? It's a little bit like, oh, things went backwards for me. But yeah, like you said, it's like, okay, I do know why. It's
Yeah.
quite a major reason.
Yeah.
And I know how to get back into it as well. Yeah, there's like certain things where I think, like you said earlier, it was weird for me coming from one to one to group because there were so many pieces of information that I was ready to share and they weren't in the form. Because I'm so
And
used, I was there with my resting heart rate ready and all of this. Um,
I know.
yes.
And people message me on Instagram saying, I cannot comment on workouts. I'm like, I know you're blocked. Like, I can't message you. I'm like, yes, I know you're blocked. Obviously, like, it is unfortunately a different level of service because it's a different thing. But, like, what do you feel like? Because obviously, Carly's done both one to one for a long time and done the group. I think you're the only person that's done both. But, like, what pieces do you feel like are missing in the group that you get in one to one for just for people who would be interested in what the difference would be?
I do think it's like what Sally mentioned, just around feeling like there's a slightly closer relationship there between yourself, Sophie, and you, like as an individual. So, as as an example, if I was signed up to one, the workouts you would have built would be around my knee, right? Although it's funny, you put Bulgarian split squats in there, and I thought I definitely couldn't do them, and I actually managed one body weight. So,
Perfect.
but yeah, it's like the personalized
Yeah,
workout
I'm gonna do them now,
routines.
so I'd
Oh,
have loved to watch it while I.
I'm sorry, someone's mic's on and we can hear your conversation. Some with a Yorkshire accent like me. I don't know who it is. I think it stopped. Oh, sorry, carry on, Carla.
um yeah, so it's like the personalized workout routine and macros and everything like that, but then also just that therapy piece. I mean, whenever I've referred people to Sophie and then said she's an online coach, and people go, oh, like a PT, and I'm like, well, PT, nutritionist, hype girl, therapist, bully sometimes.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
bullied
it's
you
good.
the other day because you wrote a question and I put in capital letters, it is in your on-demand resource collections. I
Yeah,
actually
well,
thought there was a glitch, Carly, and the comment came up twice. And I thought you'd asked again. And I was thinking,
I don't know. Yeah, just having that closer, I guess, connection and having things be a little bit more personalized. Obviously, we've talked quite a lot about the form videos already, but yeah, like form videos. I think check-in's great, but the video element was really big for me, and I've seen Sophie doing using some very weird props as like form videos
please
in
finish
the
that sentence off, Carly. Thank you.
yeah.
But yeah, and what would you say to people who have like come up with injury or illness and then they do have to take a couple of setbacks to step forward? Like, how have you turned your mindset around from gaining a little bit of, weight and having to go again?
Yeah. Um, Good question. You tell me. Um, yeah, I mean, just like for everyone's benefit, because it's safe space. I got down to 140 pounds was my lowest weight. I then did a reverse diet up to 150 pounds, and then my injury happened at the point where I'd completed my reverse diet, so it was terrible timing. And I'm now in the like high 160, so I basically put on like a stone and a half back, which is really difficult mentally. Um, to be honest, I got a therapist, not just to talk about the fitness, but to talk about the identity aspect of no longer being an active person. So I would always recommend therapy to everybody anyway, but that's been really helpful. Yeah, just trying to think about the fact that I've done it before, so I could do it again, is definitely helpful, like you mentioned earlier on. And yeah, like just accepting that it is what it is. Sometimes, like, I have had so many, small mental breakdowns about the fact that I can't do a certain thing. Like, until very recently, I couldn't walk downstairs, for example. But that's just how it is, like with the surgery that I had. So it's kind of like trying to work on acceptance, but then also If I could do it again, yeah, I think I would try and focus a little bit more on nutrition, for example, try and get some of the basics in because I can't do steps and workouts. But yeah, it's just acceptance and just trying to get back on the horse, which is what I'm doing now.
And that's the thing is, like with Callie's motivation and consistency, despite being having a major injury, and this is what you need to think, guys. And I'm not saying like comparison is the thief of joy ultimately, but when we were talking about like gratitude last week and stuff, and people feeling really sorry for themselves, oh, it's raining outside, I can't go on a walk. I'm sure if it was absolutely pissing it down and Callie could go on a run outside, she would. So that's how you've got to, think about making the best of every kind of decision you have. And the thing is, Callie, like you built a lot of muscle. You had a long period in this, and it was only, you finished in Feb 2025. All that muscle mass is there. It's just going to take a bit for it to get fired up. All that time hasn't been wasted. And I think that's what you need to understand. It's like not being a waste because that muscle is there. You've just enjoyed yourself a little bit nutritionally while you've been not been at a move. And who wouldn't, you know? You know?
Oh, my quads actually, my thigh circumference on my right leg is 3 centimeters less than my left leg. That's how crazy it is when you don't
Yeah,
walk for months.
I
So
know.
the
I don't
quad,
even.
not so much. Everything else is still there. The shoulders are definitely going to come out any
Yeah.
second now. Uh,
But
but
thank you
yeah,
so
that
much.
would.
Sorry, I think
Thank
it's a
you.
bit delay then. Yeah, but thanks so much. And obviously a massive inspiring story there from Carly. And thank you for everyone who joined the hot seat. It was so lovely to hear you all and hear someone else but myself. It's given my voice a break. Um, and that's everything, guys, for this evening and forever because there's no more group calls. But obviously, I will be seeing you all one to one at the back end of the week and this week. Um, Hopefully, it was all helpful for you and it's just given you a little bit of reassurance post this process. And if you haven't done, please go review me on Facebook. I've only had 7. I want to cry myself to sleep. There's 45 of you, and only 7 people like me enough to write me a review on Facebook. I know some of you don't have Facebook. But if there's anything else you need, just pop it on the group. This recording will be up. Thank you for everyone for your patience as usual, and thank you, Emma, Sally, and Carly for sharing your lovely stories. And I'll see you all next week for your one-to-ones. Good night. Get an early night. Sleep audit, remember. Good night.